Welcome to the Exceptionally Irresistible Show, featuring conversations with people who have demonstrated exceptional success in their lives and who have some irresistible qualities worth learning from. Come learn how others have created an exceptionally irresistible life. You too can live an extraordinary life, both personally and professionally. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Exceptionally Irresistible Show. And as you can see, we have a show for you. We're here highlighting exceptionally irresistible people, people who do things that are just exceptional and what makes them irresistible. Always remember that you are exceptionally irresistible as well. But many people don't really see it in themselves. And the story here that you're going to hear and the lessons you're going to get from these kind of episodes is to show that you have something exceptionally irresistible in you. And you just have to find it and you have to highlight it. And something that you are more than just passionate about, but something that you are so fascinated about. And that's why I brought on this guest to discuss about a topic that is near and dear to his heart, near and dear to many people's hearts, and especially now through what many Jewish people are going through. This is an important lesson to listen, to hear about how he found his just his calling and how he's presenting it to the world, going and delving through history. There's so much incredible things that you're going to listen to and you're going to hear in today's episode. So without further ado, my very good friend, a partner, just a guy who I absolutely love, Avi Abrams.
Hey, how you doing, Yuri? What's going
How
on?
is going? Thank you so much for joining our show. Your story is just remarkable, and it's so much, so like it's incredible. But before we jump into that, and without further ado, what if you were standing on the top of a rooftop somewhere and you were able to scream out a message to the world? What would you want that message to be? What would you want them to hear?
So, very good question. So, I think the message I would want the world to hear, especially now with what's going on, is that Israel did not start in 1948 AD. Israel started in 1948 AC.
Mm,
Now, probably a lot of people don't know what AC is because I just made it up essentially. But AC stands for after creation, right? So as Jewish people, we count the calendar or calendar system goes from the creation of Adam, which
mm,
right now we're in the Jewish year 5784. So if we go back to the creation of Adam and go through all the generations to Noah, and then after Noah, if you get to the year 1948 after creation, you
mm.
get exactly to the birth of Abraham,
Wow.
which is the forefather of the Jewish people and the beginning of the Jewish story. So, a
Mm,
lot of people today in the world look at Israel like it's this 75-year-old country, 76-year-old country. The history of the Jewish people and the history of Israel goes back nearly 4,000 years. And that's a
wow.
message that resonates with me. And I think
Right.
something that the world really needs to understand.
No, yeah, I mean that could that could open up a lot of doors for discussion, and of course it's beyond the purview of this episode and this show. It's not, we're not a political show on any level, or a religious show for that matter. But I think what was really what stood out to me, and especially through our conversation, and through the business that you run, which is based on this message. um, I find it fascinating. So, could you tie in a little bit about why this message is so important and how how did you get to making a business out of this?
Well, first of all, I'm a licensed tour guide. I've been tour guiding in Israel since 2015. I started, I'm originally from Montreal, Canada. As you know, we grew up together, Yermi. And, uh, how I got to becoming a tour guide, maybe that's a different story. But I started guiding families around the country from 2015 through 2020, and I started gearing in a little bit of a different direction. In addition to just doing the regular tours, going
Mhm.
around Israel from Tel Aviv up to the north, Jerusalem down to the south. So I love that. That's what I live for. But I started understanding that people are getting a little bit mixed up with all the history. I mean, on
Mhm.
the one second you're in a Roman theater, the next second you're in an Israeli winery, then you're in this like 1948 battle site. There's
Mhm.
no there's no way to really tell the whole story because we're getting a little bit of the Roman period, a little bit of the modern period, a little bit of the biblical period, and it's all over the place, right? So
Mhm.
I came up with a concept to provide tours of Israel in the chronological order of Jewish history,
Mhm.
beginning with Abraham in Beersheba, going on to crossing into the land with Joshua at the Jordan River, and then going to Shiloh, and then going through the whole Bible and the post-biblical period, all the way to modern Tel Aviv in the 21st century over a 12-day period.
Mhm.
And so that's the unique flavor that I add to the world of Israeli tourism, I guess.
No, yeah, and absolutely, and this is exactly why we're having this conversation. And I remember growing up with you in Montreal. You didn't necessarily grow up too religious, did you? Like too much practicing Judaism the way you do today.
Right. So I don't come from a religious background. I grew up, secular traditional. So,
Hmm.
we went to synagogue on the high holidays, but I wasn't, I didn't practice so much, kosher Shabbos observance. But over the years, particularly from the age of 19, when I was backpacking in Israel that summer, I really got exposed to a lot of Orthodox Judaism for the first time, and started my path in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's I bring that up only because as a kid I remember discussions that we had, and as growing up discussions that we've had. I personally was always just floored by your knowledge of biblical history, in a sense, like chronological order of things, and like how Abraham and things from different elements of the Bible. I found that fascinating. And then when you were sharing with me the idea of the tourism, and I was like, oh my goodness, this guy has just like, wow, just like amazing, um finding your purpose. Like, what was that journey like? What was that?
So, I always didn't want to just have a desk job. I wanted to have a meaningful life. And I went through different phases of what I wanted to do, I guess, during university. I studied political science and Middle East studies in McGill University. And then, college was a time that I was really becoming very observant. So
Mm.
after university, I really wanted to sit down and study Torah, study the Talmud, go to yeshiva, start learn, not for a short period of time, maybe for a year or two, and then um, originally I wanted to actually go into public policy
Mm.
in Israel and go into Israeli politics, and then eventually that morphed into the idea of Israeli tourism. I felt that I could actually make a larger impact on people through tourism and education more so than through politics.
Mm.
So it was actually, tell you the truth, in Morristown, when we were studying over there in yeshiva, Jewish rabbinical college. There's a friend of mine over there. You know who he is. um, and he basically, he put two and two together. At the time, I was, while everybody was studying, Talmud and Jewish law, my focus in yeshiva was on the Bible, on what we
Mm.
call Tanakh, which is
Right.
not typically taught as a subject in yeshiva, although people do learn it on their own individually. I learned it
Mhm.
individually, and I became fascinated with the depth of it. Learning the commentaries, learning the backstories,
Mhm.
learning just the whole history. And so that was, and the other thing I was doing in yeshiva off hours was I was basically uh, as a side business, driving yeshiva students from the yeshiva to the airport, and eventually the yeshiva caught wind of that, and they actually paid me to take drivers from Brooklyn and from other areas in the tri-state area to the yeshiva as speakers. I became like a driver. I had a driving service
Oh
called me
wow.
Avi Taxi. So a friend of mine, he said that why don't you like driving, you like the outdoors, you like Tanakh. Why don't you go to Israel and be a tour guide?
I love it.
Just when that light bulb went off, it just felt
Sure.
right. I looked into it. I did my research, obviously, and a year later, I made the move. And
Mm. And
yeah.
yeah, and there's something really interesting and unique about what you're offering and what you're doing is that you're not just providing these tours to Jewish people, but you're actually providing the tours to Christian people. You know.
Yeah, that's the whole kicker. I mean, I came into this whole tourism thing because of my love for the Bible,
Hmm.
and my assumption was that people who are going to be most interested in are Jews, maybe Orthodox Jews, or just people,
Yeah.
because that's our religion. Um, but being a tour guide for many years, and dealing with a lot of families, when you're with kids, you need to entertain, you need to have fun, you need
Mhm.
to a little history here and there, but not too much. There are some
Right.
families that are a little more history oriented, usually with older kids or teenagers. But generally, it wasn't. People weren't really so much into Bible history. But then I started encountering evangelical groups. When I was first a tour guide, I started doing local tours in the Temple Institute, which is
Mhm.
it's a museum essentially in the old city of Jerusalem. And over there, they have replicas of not just replicas; they're built with according to the exact materials and measurements as the the what do you call it? The utensils that were used in the temple, the altar, all the
Mm.
clothes of the priests, things like that. Anyways, I was guiding over there every hour, a different group, and I had a lot of evangelical Christians come in there. And
Mm.
when I started talking about the Bible, I started mentioning different things about history. They wanted to know more. They had questions. They were interested, and even after the tour, their guide needed to continue the itinerary, and I had
Right.
people that were just stuck to me. So I realized, wow, this could be my market. And as
Mm.
it turns out, I did some very successful evangelical tours, uh, you know, just in the period just before Corona, and that's when it occurred to me, like
Wow.
this is my bread and butter. This is my market. Just you know, there's just an interest there. There's because it's not just about the history in the Bible, but it's taking the Bible and bringing together archaeology, bringing together history, bringing together the Jewish context of everything, and we have something very special. There's a lot of names and places in the Bible that are in Hebrew origin, and even when it's translated
Mhm.
into English, it's just Latinized or whatever. They don't really know what they mean. The names of places, the names of people have actual meanings to them. So when you
Mhm.
understand Hebrew and you understand the Jewish context of the Bible, so it opens up a whole new dimension for Christians to understand their Bible,
Sure.
on a different level.
So I love that because not too long ago I had a conversation with a very close friend of mine, a devout Christian, and he was just sharing about one of his favorite stories, the story of David and Goliath, and just the way he shared it had a little bit of inaccuracies, let's just say, from a biblical, actual historical perspective. It had elements of inaccuracies, and it's not his fault because, according to Christian faith, from my understanding, the way he explained to me, they just learn it at face value. The way Judaism learns it is with commentary and with backstory and context, and we have books upon books that accompany just the one Bible book and stuff like that. So I was just sharing with him. I said, hey, by the way, here's the whole backstory of David and Goliath, and I gave him a little bit more of like all the details about David and Goliath and their relationship with one another. They were actually, in a certain degree, they were related to each other in a certain degree. Um, just gave him the whole backstory, and he was floored. Like he said his favorite story was just made 100 times, better kind of thing, just with all the backstory and everything. And he enjoyed it. I actually took pictures of the source to kind of like it wasn't just my story that I shared with him. It was like I got it from somewhere.
Mhm.
So I sent it to him. He was so inspired by it. And one thing that you said when you were sharing your story and everything, and I want to really highlight it, and I think this is something that the listeners could take from this just kind of nice story. But the lesson, I think, is really you use the word fascination.
Mhm.
You were just fascinated by these kind of stories. You're fascinated by these things, and you're finding that your market is responding in kind. So it has to be other people who are fascinated. I bet you the guy who I was talking to, I bet you he would be that ideal customer for you, because he would love to go experience the David Goliath story, let's say, if that was possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a little bit of market research on evangelical Christians, and apparently, even though there's thousands that come to Israel every year, they're the largest demographic of people that
Wow.
come to Israel as tourists. But yet, 91% of evangelicals in the United States, which is
Mm.
25% of the U.S. population,
Wow.
have never been to Israel and would love to come to Israel.
Mm.
And so there's obviously a lot of potential there.
Yeah. But I'm saying like I just want to just dig a little bit deeper for a quick second about the whole difference between fascination and passion. It's something I talk a lot about, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Mhm.
Um, you know, did you just by mistake say fascination? Did you use that purposefully, or passion? Like does that come into talk a little bit more about your fascination to the kind of work that you do?
Well, I mean, for me, I've always been a history buff. I remember, back in high school, we had all of our subjects, math, science. It was an average student, but when it came to history, I was like
Mm.
100%, 99. It was like one of the top students
Sure.
because it's just something that naturally speaks to me.
Mhm.
I like the idea. It's not just about years and dates. For me, it's about understanding the whole picture, the whole holistic story.
Mhm.
So for me, when I put that into an Israel context, a Jewish context, that really speaks to me because I find that today there's a huge lack of knowledge
Mhm.
and misinformation and disinformation, whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
on who the Jewish people are.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are, online, social media, bashing Israel and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You know, looking at Israel like we're some like European colonial state with no connection to the land. All you have to do is dig in the land, and you see thousands of years of archaeology, thousands of Jewish coins, Jewish symbols, menorahs, tefillin that they find all over the place from 2,000 years
Mhm.
ago. I mean, like hundreds of ancient cities with Hebrew writing on them. I mean, it's just like, how could you deny that? And
Right.
a lot of people just don't know. And the
Mhm.
story, for people that know, okay, but a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know, and this is a story that needs to be told.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And there's definitely, and this is where that connection I think comes. You know, passion is great, and you speak with passion. We could hear it. You have all the like you truly love. You love your land. You love your heritage. You love your history. You love presenting it. You love educating it. It's clear. It's clear from that. But I think what's important, and just as an observer and just listening to how you're sharing it, and also enforcing my opinion about the difference between fascination and passion, is that if it wasn't from your fascination and if it wasn't from just your interest of it, you probably would not have discovered this form of tourism or tour guiding, and then the millions of Christians who are coming and visiting Israel would not be just privileged to go on a tour that gives them a real life 3D experience in a sense of of where their religion even came from. So I think that that's a huge service that goes beyond than just serving people. Just because you found it deep within yourself, which is the point of the show. It's the whole exceptionalism of it. You found this incredible hunger and desire just for your own heritage, which is now benefiting an entire other group of people. I think that's fascinating. I think that that's so inspirational.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think you have to do what you're passionate about. I mean, there are people, who can just do your job and get by. But even if you do that,
Mhm.
um, do something on the side. Your passion must be expressed in some way, because we're all here with a certain purpose, right? We're all
Right,
created. We all have, you know, uh, if we're here in this world, it means we need to contribute something to the world.
right.
And so I think it's very important to be passionate about what you do, whether it's your full-time profession or whether it's your side gig, or whatever it is, because we all have talents, we all have hidden gems of wisdom, things that we're good at in a unique way,
Mm.
and some way, somehow, it needs to find expression into the world, because that's why we're here, I think.
And I couldn't say it better. I fully agree. So, last question for you. I was just so inspired just by your story, and that's why you're here sharing it and everything. But I'm curious, how about you? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
Where do I draw my inspiration from? Well, like I said, it's the Bible, it's the Tanakh, it's my understanding of history. Um, yeah, it's that's where it's coming from. It's just I feel I have a mission in this world to do, and my mission is to tell the story of the Jewish people through tours, through virtual tours, through online courses, through lectures, through many different mediums that I'm developing right now, and that's it. It's just I know my purpose. I know what I'm here to do, and I just have to push forward and get it done.
Yeah. No, and that's right there is exactly what it is about. And just I think for another show, I mean your grit that you have and just being involved in your business and being involved in what you do, just be getting behind the curtain scene of a lot of things that goes on. I'm so passionate, like I'm so just blown away by the level of determination that you have. I mean, every time you build this business and every time you're starting to get that momentum, and then boom, something else happens and something completely beyond your control. And it could be very depressing. I mean, borderline depressing for a lot of people, very hard on many people. And yet you just find a way to push through and to come up with the next creative thing, the virtual stuff that you're now doing and all the it really highlights an incredibleness about you. And I personally think, as an observer, as somebody who's looking in, it's all tied to that fascination. You're fascinated by what you do, you're super passionate about it, and you truly care to share with other people, and that's what makes you exceptionally irresistible.
Nice. I like that.
I mean,
So,
that's just what I see, and I hope the audience sees that as well. And you know um, that really does bring us to the conclusion of this discussion. Really, there was so many lessons to learn, and thank you, Avi, so much for the work that you do. It's really holy work, and there are many people benefiting. Thanks to you. And really, I think the lesson, the key takeaway for me at least, and hopefully for the rest of the audience, is that it is your fascination that's going to help you get through the hard times, the difficult times. Right now, it's a very difficult time for for people in Israel, and this is how you do it, and just your hunger of bringing that message to the rest of the world is just a really fascinating thing. So I hope people are learning to find that thing that they're fascinated about and to change the world through that. So
Absolutely.
that's what I learned from this, at least.
And just to, one more message, just want to add on,
Please.
because, like you mentioned, tourism has gone through a bit of a roller coaster the last few years, first with COVID, where things shut down for a couple of years. And now there's the war. There are still tourists coming in, but there are many people that are hesitant to come to Israel right now, understandably. So instead of coming to Israel, I'm bringing Israel to you, right to the comfort of your home, and that's what the virtual tours and the online courses are all about. So even if coming to Israel is not possible for you, I'm here to bring Israel to you, and yeah, that's
And we're gonna have links to all of that in the show notes, so we will include that as well. So please look out for the show notes, and connect with Avi, because there's incredible history. You're gonna be blown away by the stories that this individual shares. He's the master storyteller. I've been on a few of his tours. It's beyond incredible. So that's it, and that concludes this week's episode for the Exceptionally Irresistible Show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeremy.
Pleasure. That's it for this week's episode of the Exceptionally Irresistible Show. What has inspired you to take action in your life? Take action now. Take the first step. Share it with a friend or write it in a journal. Subscribe and share this episode, and remember, you too are exceptionally irresistible.